Everyone to have a seat.
I knew Steve, I knew Andy when he was a kid. So mom and dad remember my shirt.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And moving along.
That's a good point. Good afternoon. It is afternoon. I'm not used to that. My name is Jim Richardson. I'm the current president of the Lexington Rotary Club, and that's a long story. You can ask any of the Rotarians about why I said current, because there's a bunch of us. And it's a good thing. And we'd like to start this wonderful evening. If you don't mind, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And at the Rotary Club, we live by this four-way test, so we're going to recite that for those who don't know. It's a great thing, I don't know, maybe for government to use. Let's start with the truth. That's a great, could somebody take a note on that? Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And you have a seat. And the members of our club will find this absolutely remarkable, but I am going to be brief. I have a connection with the governor's parents. In 2016, I was the MC for a Lexington Children's Theater celebrity curtain call. And we had convinced his parents to be actors, two of the actors. And I always find in those situations, the mark of a good actor is how they ad lib. I don't remember what it was I said to your dad, but I'm sure it was something typically smart alecky. And he stopped with the audience and he pointed to me and said, "Watch what you say. My son might be governor someday." I think he could be an actor's equity. I really do. We have the sincere pleasure to bring up Gregory Teray. He's a member of our club, and we could read about his voice, but it's better to hear it.
I'd like to start us with my old Kentucky home. The sun shines bright in my old Kentucky home. 'Tis summer, the people again. The corn tops rise and the meadows in the bloom, while make music all the day. The young folks roll on the little cabin floor, all merry, happy and bright. By and by, times come another door. Oh, Kentucky home, good night. We know no more today. We will sing one song for my Kentucky home. Oh, Kentucky home. Oh.
All right, have a seat. I am grateful that very few of the men tried to follow along. It is now my wonderful pleasure to bring up our president-elect, Lyle Hanna, who will introduce this little-known speaker tonight.
Thank you, Jim. And what a pleasure to see so many people out here. This is fantastic. I've been at a meeting all day today for the regional conference for the Chamber of Commerce. The Lieutenant Governor was there. Governor, she did a good job of speaking positively about all the great things that are going on. And we're going to carry that on tonight because I want to share with you a few things about him. Look, he is really doing a great job as a governor. He really tries to put his values of faith and public service into action in all the things he does. And particularly during the global COVID pandemic, which really raged the western part of our state, but we also have had a bunch of disasters that made a difference. I happen to know about this firsthand because I chair Kentucky Habitat for Humanity, and I've been doing that since he became the governor. And what a difference he made. He helped us raise money across the state. We built over 300 homes a year the past couple of years, built and repaired homes. And he was out there helping us all the time, dedicating those homes, getting people to help us out and to help rebuild Kentucky. And Habitat was just a piece of it, but he did this all over the state. We've had huge disasters and he really stepped up and has made a huge difference in those things. But there are a lot of other things I want to share with you quickly. You don't need all this introduction, but I think it's good to get some of this out because you may not be telling all this cool stuff. I mean, he has really done a terrific job during his term. You know what? He has raised the largest private sector investment of any group in Kentucky's history, over $35 billion, raised over the time in this job. Man, he's announced, did I get that close? Yeah, 43. Oh, what? Man, it's up from the number that was published. I got $43 billion. So, well, a billion here, a billion there. We're doing pretty well. But in addition to that, over 1,150 private sector new locations or expansions in the state of Kentucky. That's a huge growth, and over 59,000 new jobs across Kentucky. So really a ton of growth. It's awesome. Of the top 4 years of economic expansion in the state of Kentucky, he's had 3 of the top 4. So 3 of the top 4 in our history, in the history of the state. So that's not too shabby. He's expanded access to health care and cleaner water across the state because we don't have clean water in the whole part of the state. So really made a big effort to make that happen. They've done a lot of things to help increase high-speed internet across the state of Kentucky. Really done things we've got the real great improvement in unemployment record, lowest unemployment record we'd have in years, highest budget surplus we've had in years. So that's really great. A lot of cool things. Really done a great job in just doing things that make a big difference across our state. So I'm not going to hit all these because they're just too darn many of them, but he's really done things to cut taxes in the state of Kentucky and to freeze gas prices when things were really getting tight in the state. And also he's expanded, reduced the cost, or held the cost of insulin. So a lot of people that need that, really important. And he's done a lot of things to help people that are really in great need, particularly people that are going through recovery. So we have more beds than almost any state, given our population. So we've had 194,000 Kentuckians get to vote again because they weren't able to because they had cases against them, but those were cleared and now they are able to vote in the state of Kentucky. Done a lot of things just to free up people in Kentucky, take care of us, and make it a better place for people to live. So I want to give him a warm welcome. We're so glad he's here. He's got a lot of things to share with us. Get on up here. Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Thank you all. That was really good for my self-esteem. I mean it. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for inviting me to be here. And thanks to Lyle for that kind and energetic introduction. I understand you have a Fab Four of past presidents taking the reins this year. So I want to recognize current club president Jim Richardson, as well as Jamie Schrader, Bill Wilson, and Dean Hammond. Thank you all for your roles that you play. I grew up here, so Lexington means a lot to me, and I've seen firsthand the impact of your work as Rotarians. For more than 100 years, Lexington Rotarians have lived out your motto of service over self. Because of your efforts, this community has not just grown, but has thrived. From helping create Cardinal Hill Hospital, to donating Camp Offutt to the Boy Scouts, to partnering with Toyota to help bring an inclusive playground for kids to Shiloh Park, Lexington Rotarians have made Kentucky and Lexington a better place to live. It shows that you're living out your values and you're looking out for your neighbors. That's because y'all are invested in the future of your city and of your community. That's how you build a forum that is big enough to give everyone a voice. That's how you ended up with a Rotary Club of 220 strong leaders. It's folks like you, the Rotarians in this room, making a difference through public service close to home and around the world, that you helped us get closer to eradicating polio across the globe. You supported Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. I know that because I got to make Dolly Parton a Kentucky Colonel. That now is in every single Kentucky county. It provides one book per month to every preschool child in Kentucky. Dolly was so excited that we had reached every single county she personally visited last summer to celebrate. You supported scholarships for students, and you've supported refugee families, and you've hosted friendship exchanges with Rotarians around the world so that they could visit and see all the great things about our Commonwealth. You can see your impact in so many ways. And I've been working hard to make sure that Kentucky sees these kind of wins. You're helping us build what I call our new Kentucky home, one where we leave the stereotypes of the past in the past, and we welcome everyone to the pride of place. We show everyone why we are so proud of this Commonwealth. We say loudly that we are not and will never be a flyover state ever again. We are an incredible destination. We say in our Commonwealth, the pace of business is as fast as anywhere, but the pace of life is just right. We build this Commonwealth, this new Kentucky home, by finding common ground, by applying common sense, and then getting results, making good things happen for our people. And I believe the results we've seen are in large part because we recognize that when you turn on the TV, everything you hear is partisan. Everything is filtered through a political lens. That when most people wake up in the morning, they're not thinking about their party or any election. They're thinking about their job and whether they make enough to support their family. They're thinking about their next doctor's appointment for themselves or their parents or their kids. They're thinking about the roads and bridges they drive each day, the school they drop their kids off at, and whether they feel safe in their community. When we work on those issues, we don't move a Commonwealth to the right or the left. We just move it forward, and we don't leave anybody behind. Moody's just did this study. They said if every state was its own country, what would the economy look like right now? Half of our states are in recession. Another third are flat. Kentucky's economy, according to Moody's, is still growing at one of the fastest rates across the country. And so we can, and we should be able to do this. We should be able to push out all of that division that I don't think is natural. I think it's pressed upon us. And just remember that we are Kentuckians first, and each and every one of these wins has taken all of us from all parties, all parts of this city, and all parts of this Commonwealth. When we win together and we celebrate together. And that's the type of momentum we've got to continue. Yes, our nation is facing a lot of big, important issues. But remember, if you're staring at the cost of your child's next prescription and you don't know you're going to be able to both afford that and put food on the table, you don't get to anything else. One of our most pressing focuses has to be on people's everyday life, on that bus driver in Woodford County when we were pushing for raises for our educators. I remember riding around with her, and she could tell me to the cent what her monthly grocery bill for her kids cost. But she could also tell me to the cent how much the vacation that she couldn't afford was, not being able to take her kids to the same type of vacations that her families went on. When we focus on people's lives, or at least prioritize it over anything else we might disagree on, we still make progress even in this wild, seemingly chaotic world we're currently living in. Just some things that we all ought to be proud of, if I can update Lyle's numbers just a little bit. I mean, together, we have shattered every economic development record in the books, and it's not even close. In the last 5.5 years, $43 billion new dollars of private sector investment coming to Kentucky, investing in us. That is the most under any governor's term. And the reason I found that out is the guy that's number 2 is my dad. We are now double what Dad brought in. And I remember when they told me that, because at first I said, well, wait, who's number 2? And they said Steve Beshear. And I had another question. I said, by how much? And they said, well, 20 billion. And so I remember calling him and thanking him after telling him. But I remember standing next to that man in the middle of the Great Recession and him fighting for every possible job we could find. And remembering how important that announcement of 5 or of 10 was at that time, how important it was to draw just that level of hope in a time of great difficulty. You know, everything we do builds upon the foundation that is left for us. And I ended that conversation simply by saying thank you. On top of record-setting private sector investment, record-setting new jobs. As we're here today, we've announced over 63,600 new jobs at the best 3-year average for wages that the Commonwealth has ever seen. Get this, for the second time ever, and the only other time was when we announced a bunch of UPS pilot jobs, and we're obviously thinking of that family and that group right now. But for only the second time in our history, I think at the end of this year, our average incentivized wage in Kentucky for jobs we bring in and provide those tax credits is going to be over $30 an hour. Lexington's been hard at work in all of this. I think just Fayette County alone, and I know Lexington works so hard with the surrounding counties, over $385 million of new investment, over 1,900 new jobs. And again, that's just within those boundaries. Look at what continues to go on at Toyota in Georgetown. Major investment after major investment. And think about that Toyota plant. And I've thought about it a lot because we just laid Martha Lane Collins to rest on Sunday. Your singing was beautiful in the old Capitol. Thank you for always being willing. When we landed, that was the first Toyota plant in North America. And as we sit here today, as we were gathered for her service, it is still the largest Toyota manufacturing plant in the entire world. That actually, not to digress and tell a story, that actually came in really handy when I was on Fox News about 3 months ago. So I'm on Fox News and they're asking me what I think about tariffs. I'm not for them. I believe the current tariff policy is the single worst economic policy of my lifetime, but you don't have to take that from me. In Kentucky, it's not just this Democratic governor. It's Republican Senators Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul, who have both been outspoken against tariffs. So how do you know something's a bad idea? Well, if Andy Beshear, Mitch McConnell, and Rand Paul all agree, it must be a really bad idea. But I'm on Fox News and I'm talking about all this, and they say, well, Governor, is it fair that there aren't any American cars driving around in Japan? And I said, I'm not sure that's true, but it's not that simple. And she thought she had me. And she said, well, how could it not be that simple? And I said, well, the biggest Toyota plant in the world isn't in Japan. And I paused and she said, well, where is it? But the number of jobs coming into Fayette County, from Piramal Pharma Solutions to Keeneland to Total Quality Logistics to Longship to Webasto to Neogen, all exciting investments and high-paying jobs that are bringing more opportunity to young people and everyone across Fayette County. Fayette County has also been instrumental in the fact that we have broken our exports record for 2 years in a row. That is going to be hard with the new tariff policy. Canada's a little angry. I've also learned that Canadians used to really love bourbon, but not so much at the moment. Fayette County also has helped us break our tourism record 3 straight years. Let's thank everybody in tourism that's helped make that happen. But what I know the people in this room recognize is that the reward for good work is more work. And we're putting in that work right now. That's everything from our program that invests in the next site for the next business we want to bring in. Yes, we celebrate each time we locate a new business, but we recognize there's one less site for the next one. And so, Representative, we got to get to work and make sure that we are investing. We've also launched our new Speed to Market initiative. And this has been something we've been talking to companies about for a while, but we're now starting to market. The idea that if you choose to put your facility in Kentucky, we're going to get you up and running 6 months faster than any other state. And what we've learned is you can do it without skipping one environmental rule, without skipping one safety rule. It's just a recognition that if these jobs are out there, the sooner we can have that facility up and running, the sooner our families will benefit. The sooner someone will be able to put food on the table. And the number of businesses that has helped attract when they say, well, Georgia's giving me this incentive and Alabama's giving me this incentive. And I say, well, how will those incentives compare to your revenue if you're operating 6 months earlier? It makes a pretty compelling case that we have seen continue to make Kentucky the place that people want to be. As we've been doing this, we recognize that a good workforce is a healthy workforce. That's why we've been working to expand healthcare all across the Commonwealth. And it's one of the reasons that I have great concerns about what I call the big ugly bill that is going to start impacting our rural communities. Again, don't take my word for it. Take the word of the Kentucky Hospital Association, which I don't think is a bastion for liberalism. It makes some very good spokespeople on this issue. But when you listen to Nancy Galvani, and I want to give her credit for speaking out, for telling the truth, even when there is political pressure not to. She has been a champion on this. What she'll say is, we're going to have 35 rural hospitals at risk of closure. We're already seeing expansions that were supposed to happen, not happen. And everybody who's here from a rural community across this state or others knows that your rural hospital is your second largest employer in that county, right behind the public school, and it is the largest payroll. And if that's gone, it's not just the hospital that's closing. It's the coffee shop, it's the restaurant, it's the bank, it's the insurance company. What this is going to do is going to reverberate in our communities and others. And then when you look at worker productivity, when you used to be able to take 2-3 hours off to see a doctor, half a day at work and be back, now it's going to be the whole day because you're driving a couple hours. And then when your kid needs to see a specialist, it's another day. When your parents need to see somebody, it's a third day. The impacts of this are going to be significant in Kentucky, but we've got to do what we can, right? We cannot make excuses, and our goal is to keep as many people covered on healthcare and make sure that we have the healthiest workforce we can find. And as I look at workforce, the single most effective way that we can take yet another step to make Kentucky the destination is pre-K for all 4-year-olds. We need to get it passed in this next General Assembly. Let me give you 3 quick reasons that can be your talking points, because we need this to be the #1 ask, especially of business in Kentucky. First, over half of our Kentucky kids aren't ready when they show up for kindergarten. Some people hear that and they say, well, what does that mean? I talked to a kindergarten teacher who had 4 kids that weren't potty trained on day 1 of kindergarten. I had another that said the majority of her kids hadn't learned all of their colors. These are the kids that we're expecting to be able to take certain tests by third grade. And remember, it's those types of scores that we even predict our prison population. We are succeeding in so many things in Kentucky, but we've got to admit where we're failing. And certainly we're failing our youngest learners before they have ever walked into a public school. Second, things cost too much right now. When you have pre-K starting in the 4-year-old year, they estimate that a family makes $9,000 more a year for 6 years. Think about that, 50,000+ extra dollars that our families can use to get by. But the last piece is we've estimated that our workforce could grow by 70,000 Kentuckians by getting this through. Every single company, every single one that comes in and asks, okay, where's my workforce going to come from? This is an important answer. And while I can tell them, we will get them up 6 months earlier than other states, that other state can say, we have pre-K for all 4-year-olds and Kentucky doesn't. We shouldn't be at that competitive disadvantage. And this next session is a time to do something about it. And let me say, we have a lot of Republican legislators that are interested in and willing to make this their #1 issue. Somehow it's become partisan. Maybe it's because I'm for it. But the idea on all these things is if we can peel that partisanship away, like the idea that there's nothing Democrat or Republican about a 4-year-old, they can't register and they can't vote. But regardless of any of our parties, we can invest in every single one of them. And that helps all of us. Now, I look at where we are in Kentucky right now, and we're just not looking at the same Kentucky anymore. And I think we can all feel it. That's why we have this new Kentucky Home program that's out there. That idea that we leave the stereotypes of the past in the past and we charge towards a brighter future. But let me just close by saying, while it looks like the federal government is going to reopen, the vote I think may happen tonight or tomorrow. There have been a lot of people who haven't known where their next meal is coming from. I want to thank all our food pantries that have done that work. Thank you for all of your effort. And I want to thank some of our state employees. You know, right now people like to look down on or say negative things about federal or state employees. But when I went to court with a number of other people and we got that ruling that at least partial benefits had to be paid through SNAP, we got what we needed from the federal government to start making that happen at 9 p.m. on a weekday. Our employees went in. They worked until 3 a.m. and Kentucky was the first state to have partial SNAP benefits out to our people. Really proud of them for doing it. And I think that's one of the reasons that nobody in this country is looking down on us anymore. They're looking up to us. Now, we are hopefully setting an example that we can push the division aside. We can focus on those things that matter most to people, and then we can get real results for our citizens. So I'm grateful that you've had me here today. And now I'm going to do something that I would never allow our General Assembly to do. You get to interrogate the governor. I know we've got some questions. All right. Yeah, so the question is, can we link tourism to keeping some areas that are green? And the answer to that is yes. Outdoor tourism is very popular all across the United States, and we have options for everybody. Right, you can go to Red River Gorge or see the beauty of Eastern Kentucky and the Appalachians. You can go to Northern Kentucky and experience the river culture. You've got the bluegrass here, and if Coolmore will let you in, you can meet 2 Triple Crown winners that are there. You look at Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley in Western Kentucky, 2 of the best boating areas that you could go to, and Lake Cumberland and Lake Harrington. And if I left out your favorite lake, I'm sorry. But there's no question that is driving a big part of our tourism, but it's also us. It's that we're welcoming. Now, when my wife moved here with me, she looked at me one day and she said, "Why does everyone talk to me on the elevator?" And I said, "That's who we are. We feel uncomfortable for not talking to that person on the elevator." But that has a lot of people coming here. And New Kentucky Home is about trying to connect tourism and economic development and workforce. The idea that we need more people to move here. And how about if we can show business owners or leaders not just what it's like to look at the numbers or to work here, but what it's like to actually live here, to come and to be a part of our community. And I can't tell you the number of economic development projects that the decision maker has said, "I just felt so welcome. I went into a coffee shop where nobody knew me and they smiled at me and they talked to me." They haven't brought up the elevator yet, but that could be a part too. Yes, back here.
Not very large business, for economic development, but it's small business, all right, and a lot of the challenges that small business owners face.
Yeah.
The great work that you've done is just encourage the General Assembly to do to help support and make it easier for small business owners.
Yes, great question, because small businesses make up by far the most businesses in Kentucky. They employ the most people. You know, they are the first to hire when they can and the last to fire, because typically your employees are people you might go to church with, or your kids play on the same soccer team. And every one of the major global businesses that is out there started as a small business, and almost all of them are still located in that town or in that state they started with. So thank you for what you do. Our Speed to Market initiative is about taking the service we provide to big business and bringing it down to small business. So if you're going to expand, what are the different inspections you're going to have, and how can we make sure that they are scheduled at a time for you to move as fast as you're going? How do we bring you into our workforce training programs where you might not need 30 people, but you may need 3 or 4 any given year? And how do we pool you together with similar types of businesses? How do we make sure you know about the grants that are out there? And there are grants out there depending on which sector your small business is in, because when we help you grow, it is sustainable. You're likely not looking at moving to another state, and recognizing that next growth might not meet the threshold for our regular incentives, but that there are still good programs out there that can help you. Part of that is making sure that you don't feel our bureaucracy, because when you look at a project for big business or small business, it may touch 3 cabinets. You shouldn't have to be calling each one of them. We should be doing that work in the background for you. You shouldn't feel that impact. You should basically have somebody and or online resources that can guide you through each of those, knowing what needs to happen and when it will happen. And when you sit down with our permitters, it should not be adversarial. It should be trying to accomplish all those goals together. I mean, I remember even in some of our biggest things that we've located, saying, well, if you just move this 5 feet to the left or right, you impact 1 less stream. And that'll have you moving that much faster. That will reduce different costs. Another thing we're trying to do for all level of businesses is try to source you with other Kentucky businesses. Try to make sure the materials you need, and that could be just about anything, that you at least know about the closest potential supplier. And while not a small business, one of the best examples is GE Appliances in Louisville. I'm so proud of where that company has come, given where it was. I mean, this was a huge Kentucky employer that had almost bottomed out and now is at about 80% of the hiring of its height. It's bringing back lines to the United States that hadn't been here. Made the first refrigerator in the United States in a while. But when they decided to make the first dishwasher, they sourced their stainless steel with North American Stainless in Carroll County. We created 500 jobs at GE. We created 100 jobs at North American Stainless. And so trying to do this for small businesses, to bring all those needs together and to have that macro impact, both for you and for the state, is something we're working really hard in. Long answer. Oh, yes.
Has the state made any considerations to streamline your tax process so that some of the other states in the nation, that you can write one check to the state and they will pay out counties and other parties, so that we don't have to snail mail a check for small business to pay it, snail mail a check to pay a county, and then go online to pay our state taxes?
Let's talk after. Yes, ma'am. Please. Yeah, so I'm a STEAM dad. And I believe in the arts because I believe that the most important part of our workforce is creativity. All right, we can train a lot of people to do the things we know how to do, but how are we going to address the challenges that arise each day? I think the arts inspire that in people. They help them think creatively and differently, and they also help bring people together. If we want to attract talent, which is just people, we have to have a thriving arts scene. I recently tried out acting here in Lexington. There was roughly 3 lines, and they wrote them on a clipboard for me. I was told I broke, is it the 3rd wall, the 4th wall? Okay, so apparently I'm a bad actor. But I think it's really important. It is worth investment. I love the arts that specifically have programs with kids while also offering so much. I think what's happened at the Opera House here in Lexington is really amazing, and the shows that are going on. I worked in that building during college for a law firm, and just you never hear from that other side of the wall. And now just how on nights where there are performances, just the whole town is buzzing and that area is so packed. It's pretty special. And so if anybody here is from the Opera House, you owe me after that answer. Yes, sir. So green energy and sustainability is going to continue regardless of any policies coming out of DC. Why? Because our businesses are demanding it. Even during the last administration, where you would have different rules or regulations, I saw that sustainability was being driven by the private sector. Now, every company we meet with will say they need 3 things when it comes to their power: affordability, reliability, and sustainability. So on affordability, we do pretty well, but we've got to make sure that we keep up. On reliability, the lights can't go out. They've gone out in Texas a number of different times. They can't go out. Now, you remember the polar plunge that was right before Christmas? That was the closest we have ever been, the highest load we ever had. It was negative 20 something in wind chill. And I thought we were going to have an hour out here and an hour out there. And man, the switchboard lit up in Frankfurt. People saying, well, I'm cooking for tomorrow. You better tell me the hour I'm going to be out ahead of time. And in the end, we were able to sustain that against something that we'd really never even seen. But the last part is we've got these great jobs that we want. But if the business says, I need a certain percent of my energy portfolio to be green, we've got to deliver. That's right now the cost of doing business. And so in Kentucky, that means we've got to look at different ways that we expand. We've got some really interesting small scale hydro projects going on in Breathitt County and in Eastern Kentucky, some of the most technologically advanced projects for the smaller scale. We're seeing solar done in different ways around Kentucky. We had a very big announcement in Western Kentucky on nuclear, which I think you're going to see being a bigger part of the energy portfolio in the United States. And then, if bourbon couldn't get any better, we have a company from Scotland that takes the waste from Scotch and turns it into green methane and pumps it through their existing pipeline systems. They have their first construction project going on in Kentucky. So what I'm telling you is the world's going to be saved by bourbon. Yes.
I'm starting kindergarten, we were paying $1,500
Yeah.
daycare and preschool. What do you think the probability of pre-K initiative actually happening?
So I believe with the right support, with all of you all going to that legislator that represents you, that represents your business, and saying, I don't care if the government is for or against it, my kids need it, my employees' kids need it, and it's time to just do the right thing. This has the support of the vast majority of Kentuckians. The polling shows it has significant support from people of both parties. People don't view it as political. So it's either something we can get done now, or people have to deal with in the next election, and it shouldn't be one of those things. We are seeing some good support in the rank and file of both parties. What we're going to need to do is push through leadership of the supermajority in the House and in the Senate. But I think you are going to see at least a dozen Republican co-sponsors of a bill that has a phased-in approach that would work. But listen, they said that medical marijuana would never pass while I was governor. And guess what? It did. They told us that we couldn't protect our horse industry and pass certain bills, the HHR bill, and we did. And we did that by calling folks like you and having them call their legislators and say that this is something that they demand. And at the end of the day, the job of a legislator isn't to be the best Democrat or the best Republican, but the best legislator for that district. And a number of the folks that are going to be voting on this have zero child care options in some of their communities. And this is just going to be, I think, something that's going to help us all. But thank you for sharing your personal story. And it's already so tough for people to get by right now. This is just something that can help. Yes, sir. Yeah, when we look at priorities for this upcoming session, pre-K for all is number one. Coming out with a budget that works is going to be number two. This budget's going to be hard. You know, we've had the three largest budget surpluses in Kentucky's history after our last three budgets, but we have a budget reduction plan that we're having to put into place right now. We're having to cut. And some people have said, well, that's not real, but here's how it works. Under state law passed by legislators, we have to bring in economists. If the economists project less revenue than the current spending on the budget, by law, we have to make a reduction. And so if there are legislators out there that say it's not real, it is real under the laws they passed. And we're dealing with it. But here's what we're going to face. The last cut in the state income tax reduced the last two, what we would see in revenue in the upcoming budget by about $600 million. Now, our economy's grown by about $600 million. And I'm really proud of that. But what it means is we're going to have about the same amount of revenue, but costs of everything have gone up. Prescription costs, Medicaid costs, public education needs more money. So coming out with our priorities intact, making sure we're putting education and healthcare, infrastructure, public safety first, and that we don't fall back in any of those. Making sure that, I didn't mention this earlier, you realize that we've now had 3 straight years of decreasing drug overdose deaths in Kentucky. Thank God. We've got to make sure that any program we rebalance doesn't throw us off that trajectory. I mean, last year compared to the year before was a 30% decrease. We want that to be even bigger and even bigger after that. I do not want to lose the momentum we've had. But I tell you, I will approach all this with the fiscal responsibility a state has to have. We will have a real balanced budget. I mean, since I've been governor, we've gotten our only 3 bond rating upgrades that our state has ever had. All 3 major bond rating agencies have upgraded Kentucky, talked about our economy, but have also said that, you know, when all of a sudden you don't have the amount of money in a program that you used to, you still have to rebalance that program. You got to live within your means. And so we're working really hard towards a budget that hopefully has the least amount of hurt and the most amount of help, and that continues this really strong momentum as we go forward. Yes, sir.
And with that debate around the income tax, low income tax, we did that.
So the question is, can we get to a 0 income tax? Here's what I'd say. If you do that too fast, you got to look at what happened to Kansas, and it was rough. Kansas went really quickly, and they had to cut their spending to public education by so much their Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. They didn't have road work for multiple years, and they could not offer economic development incentives at all during that period of time. And so for me, I'll just tell you my approach. I think it's a balance, right? I think our best tax structure is one that's balanced, that has as much relief and creates as much individual investment, but also has enough stability and reliability that we can provide the services that we're asked to. And I'll tell you, we're providing more services as government for business right now than we ever had. I mean, 15 years ago, business wasn't looking at government and saying, what are you doing to help train my workforce? And now that's something that we've taken on and taken on significantly. And so when I talk to our chambers, and we've worked really well together, really positive relationship, I say, let's just make sure when we look at the things you're pushing for in state revenue, that you treat it at least a little bit like your members' revenue, right? You got to have enough to cover those costs. And you can't just say, well, take it from somewhere else or you'll figure it out. And so I think we just need to be really careful. We have so much growth right now. We will not hit the thresholds that the General Assembly put in place for another one this session. But if we have a pause, it's possible that we will in the future. I will say the other headwinds we're going against is that tariff policy. It is slowing growth around the country. And I'll just give you one example. Churchill Downs, which we all watch, paused $1 billion project because they said their costs were floating by 30% due to tariffs. So they could finance a $1 billion project, but if it ended up being 1.3, it was going to really hit the company and hit them hard. So that's what we're looking at right now. All right, I'll take one more. Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
I have a 28-year-old daughter who just entered, she's on the spectrum, she just entered an intentional living community up in Michigan. I had her down here in the summertime. I'll put in a plug from McLeod's coffee shop. I took her over there and she volunteered to work there for about 6 weeks. I'm wondering if there are any initiatives going on to help our young people, especially young adults that are on the spectrum for jobs, if there are any businesses that are stepping forward and willing to hire folks. And also wondering if there are any housing initiatives, and I would be willing to work with anybody on this project.
Well, we look forward to working with you. On the housing front, yes. And we just had a report that came out from a major real estate group that gave us one of the best grades in the country on building new affordable housing. And we got a lot more work to do because the American dream right now is at risk. And that's one of the things that makes our country so prosperous and great, that if you work hard and play by the rules, that you can get ahead. Well, with the costs of everything right now and the inability to buy a home in the same decade that your parents could, there's a lot of people who right now don't believe in that American dream. And that's a real threat to our country that we ought to take as seriously as division. But in our building, we have been very intentional on it being accessible for everyone. We have a major project going on in Bowling Green. For young adults that need a little extra help. And it's just been incredible to be a part of it. Even everything from the playgrounds that we're building right now and the grants that are going out there, accessibility is so important. I mean, I'm somebody that believes inclusion is still a good thing and not a dirty word. And then it applies a lot more broadly than our president may think it does. And so trying to be intentional in each and every one of those and on hiring, the answer is yes, but we can do more and we should do more. And we're working on trying to open up hiring for those that may have some intellectual disabilities, that may have some physical disabilities. We're working on hiring for formerly incarcerated individuals and those that are successfully gone through treatment and are in recovery. In each of these situations, it's one of the most important things that can stabilize that individual's life, give them the dignity that a good job has, and build that better life. So listen, when you come to Kentucky, we want you to get involved as quickly as possible. So we will look forward to working with you. I've got to solve that issue with small business and taxes and how the dollars go out. I'll work on that. We'll make sure we get your information. Okay, and I'll take one last one. I can do that because I'm governor. Yes. So Eastern Kentucky, we are making major progress from rebuilding the high ground sites, which is the most ambitious rebuilding project I think the nation has ever seen after a natural disaster. Move people from the hollers up on top of former coal mines, doing it in an affordable way. By the way, doing it in a sustainable way. The average utility bill in each of those new houses is going to be about $50 a month with the solar and every other piece. That's on them. We already have businesses that are now wanting to co-locate from out of state. They're just really excited about this possibility. Our a program where we invest in new sites. We're being very intentional about investing in the infrastructure in Eastern Kentucky sites. We are 4-laning the entire Mountain Parkway with every section now completed or under construction. I hope it's done by the time I'm finished being governor. If not, we'll miss it by about 6 months. It is coming that fast. And then the thing I'm most excited about is where Thunder Ridge used to be. We have cleaned it off. It has every major form of infrastructure that is needed. It is one of the most substantial acreages that's there. We can put at least several hundred jobs on it, but just really thrilled at that. Let me leave you with one last thought of a great Kentucky story. We have a company called Lion PPE, and Lion is only in Eastern Kentucky. They have a facility in Beattyville, and what do? They sew the jackets that our firemen wear. The jackets that protect firemen and women, not just in Kentucky, but in New York and all around the world. And when we had 15 different departments fighting that UPS fire, almost all of them were wearing PPE produced in Eastern Kentucky that helped protect them. I think that's a pretty special Kentucky story. All right. Hey, give me the hook. No, you're good. Lyle's giving me the hook. Thank you all very much. Greatly appreciate it.
Hey, big hand. Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're just the first stop tonight. He's got to go down to this Civic Center and speak to a group down there. And then he's got to go to Georgetown and speak. So he's got to rush out of here. But you know what? We've got some food for you.